Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This vegan show where we talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of The Rook, as well as the season finale of NOS4A2. Like always, if I'm talking about something that you want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I say about this week's episode of The Rook, you can skip what I had to say about the season finale of NOS4A2. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of The Rook. A lot of interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. You have Mifany learning a little bit more about Nazim, kind of learning a little bit of how he went from where he was before. It seems like basically in general he helped people with his abilities. Like we see that mom and daughter, like the mom is begging him to help erase her daughter's memories of like kind of like a traumatic and horrible situation that happened to her. And then afterwards Marcus found him and was taking him back to England, and it turns out basically someone told him like, hey, I need you to work with us to get this whole situation done. It's about, this person, you're going to use your abilities on them and everything, and you're going to make this person so happy. So he thought like, oh, I'm doing a good thing by helping this person, but it turns out there's this person named Bronwyn. She's the one that's connected to all of this, who set this all in motion. But then obviously, like, now Mifany now knows Linda's a part of it, because it's like, wait, there was another woman that showed up. Who was it? Finds out it was Linda from Nazim, and so now it's this whole thing. It's so interesting because she immediately didn't go, oh, can I get my memories back? Because I guess it is a thing of once Nazim takes your memories, there's no getting them back type of thing. Maybe potentially. It doesn't seem like there's an erasing it. It's kind of like it's like a permanent like delete, where it's like there's no recycle bin, it's just completely gone. Maybe, I don't know. To be fair, like we see that last episode, Mifany got bits and pieces of her memory back, so it's not like it's completely gone, but like I guess like the synapses or whatever are kind of like deactivated when it comes to her memories. Nevertheless, at the same time, we also had like, Conrad digging deep into this whole situation. Like, okay, what's Mifany up to? Her box. We know it's connected to her secret identity. Oh, not secret identity. Identity she was going to get for her new life. Question then becomes, well, who is she getting from? Never really crossed my mind. Person she's actually getting it from is Lorik and the Legat. Which begs the question, like, what's up with the double dipping? Because like there's all these vultures and stuff that are connected to the Legat, but at the same time, I guess that's like stuff that's happening behind Lorik's back. Like he's kind of a shrewd businessman, but I guess other people have their own plans in play too. Or maybe he plans on double dipping. Maybe it's kind of like, oh, I'll take Mifany's money to kind of let her run away, but also I'm gonna, orchestrate this other stuff. I mean, he's got many different clients. That's my thought process behind it. But it turns out like he's the one Mifany was going to contact to get her new identity and stuff like that. So that was interesting. And then immediately kind of one of those scenes that's kind of like, whoa, it's this scene where you have Conrad and Jennifer, Madam Secretary, kind of like breaking down the whole relationship aspect, because the dude's like, all right, we gotta, we're doing this so that basically no outsource could ever blackmail you, nor could you blackmail each other, so we got to put it all out here in the open. So it's like, okay, so how long is this relationship going? Conrad says 18 years, she only says 11, because for him it's like they had a thing before, and that's actually something he brings up later on, because for him he kind of kept putting his life on hold just for her. She went off and got married, and it's kind of, it's just a thing of like, you were supposed to leave your husband, but you never did, but I waited and waited and waited. But she says 11 months is kind of when things kind of rekindled. That's how Conrad puts it, but she just labels it, it's been 11 months. And then it's the whole situation of very invasive questions like, what was it like, have you done and received oral sex? Yes. Anal? No. Have you urinated on your... What? Come on, for fuck's sakes, who would... And then the guy's looking at the Madam Secretary. She's like, what? No. And then it's like BDSM. It's like, all right, I've had enough of this. It's so, all right. Because it's like, also, I love it's like, oh, have you ever had sex in like company property or something like that? And she's like, no. And then Conrad's like, yes. And she's like, wait, what? She's like, wait, the BMW? That wasn't yours? And Conrad doesn't say anything. So that's a very awkward situation. But sadly, it ends with, Conrad's like, no, don't throw this all away. Like, even if you don't leave your husband, this is good between us. But for her, it's a situation of, she says PM, so I'm assuming she's referencing the Prime Minister. It's like the Prime Minister's kind of on his way out. Someone just gonna put him out of his misery, and that could be her next position, And it's like, oh, but don't act like you're not getting anything out of this relationship too. It's like, oh, everything's a little convenient for him. But he's like, no, I don't want you to even think for a second I use this relationship for anything other than the fact is that I care deeply for you, So He's just tired of being essentially the other man in the situation. But sadly, that's the end of their relationship. Which I appreciate that the secretary kind of snaps at Linda, because Linda makes a like wisecrack later on. She's like, "Oh, I know why you're frustrated." And then she's like, "Well, because of you, me and Conrad had to break up." She's like, and your relationship is none of my business." She's like, and she's like, "I'm just trying to look out the safety of this organization." And she's like, "And now I'm doing the same thing. But because you had to stick your nose in our business, make it public, we broke up. And now, I mean, at the very least," she's like, "I couldn't promote Conrad when I was fucking him, because it would have just been a complicated situation. Now that it's over and whatnot, it turns into a situation of, now I'm going to need to make some changes that I planned to make a long time ago. You get suspended." I'm like, wow, that's so interesting, considering the fact is Linda's in the middle of all of this, trying to like get out of this, whatever she's trying to get out of it. So it's kind of like, okay, that kind of took me by surprise. Let's see her kind of get suspended. You think she'd fight so hard to keep her? Well, I mean, it was kind of the law kind of got laid down in that situation, so she can't do much about it. So there's that. You have Miffany looking into the burner phone that Nazim had, and Ingrid ends up finding out it's registered to Marcus, but there's also another one that's registered to Marcus. And so obviously Monica's in a situation of like, she knows more about what's going on, but like, because that's the thing is, no one in this entire situation has the full picture. I think Linda is the only one. Monica feels like Linda and Conrad know what's up and they're not telling her, which is pissing her off because she's being pushed to the outskirts of this like investigation. But for her, it's like, I'm neck deep in this. I was sent here. This case is important to her because it's about finding out what happened to Marcus, like what this is all about. What I was actually surprised by Miffany is kind of, trust her. It's like, oh, how should I trust you? Why should I trust you? It's like, because Monica started not trusting this organization because it's like, you guys are got nothing but lies. You're keeping secrets. But she tells her, it's like, oh, I have the boy Nazim. The fact of the matter is, I'm not trusting my own agency because, like you said, they haven't been transparent. So not the team up I was kind of expecting in that regard. I kind of had a feeling like that was going to happen just because I saw images of them together, because they've never outright been together a lot this season, if at all. Like, they've been in the same scene, sure, but like, they've never had any interactions really up until this point, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, Miffany's trying to keep the whole aspect of my memory bit, just kind of keep that to yourself, like to Nazim. And obviously, Miffany brings in the whole Linda angle, but she's like, okay, I don't get it. Like, there was no connection between Marcus and Linda, so what's this all about? Obviously, the connection being Miffany, but she's not letting her know at that point in time. It's actually kind of interesting because, like, when they talk later on, we kind of learn more about Monica. In fact, how her and Marcus actually met. She was tracking someone down. They brought Marcus in because of his enhanced perception abilities. But when it was all said and done, like, they were on the job staking out this particular person for like 2 weeks, and they enjoyed that time together. But she actually kind of felt sad because, like, oh, we captured a target, and she kind of felt like she'd never see Marcus again until he joined her unit. And it's like, oh, 23 mostly happy months later. But then he eventually got the job that the mission he went missing on, and now it's, and she never realized like why he never came to her for help. And it's like, oh, maybe he had a good reason. She's like, yeah, really? What was it then? And it's like, oh, I like that too. Like, Miffany being like, oh, I wasn't actually that, that's just something you say. Like, English people, we're more so about like, making, not really very good with the whole making conversation thing. So that's just kind of like the natural response you're supposed to say. Like, oh, I'm sure that person had a good reason. I like that Monica kind of caught her off guard. She's like, oh, I guess that's kind of supposed to be the right thing to say. But also because she actually doesn't know. And then I kind of had a feeling Monica was figuring her out the moment Monica's like, okay, so what about you? Like, how, what about you? The Gestalt, was that your first? Like, how did that all happen? I bet you it'd start with Eliza. She's like, honestly, I don't remember. Oh, well, we'll kind of move on. Like, she quickly changed the subject because all the way Monica looking at her, it's like, it's probably in that moment Monica really figured everything out, just because the way she just kind of like the way Miffany just kind of dodged that. It's kind of sad because at the same time, there's the whole situation with, Miffany and the Gestalt, because for them it's like, okay, you're lying to us, you're not telling us everything, like everything's kind of been chaotic recently, but it all trails lead back to you. So it's like, tell me what's up. Or he's like, I'm under the impression that you slept with me just to get me out of the way, so tell me it's otherwise or I'm gonna think it's that. And it's like, oh, I guess I got my answer. But it's a complicated thing because Miffany doesn't really know why she did what she did before. Was it simply because she had feelings for them, or was there something else to this? I don't know. It's kind of interesting because Monica made a reference to like, oh yeah, like basically not wanting Nazim to be a part of this whole situation. Because we see what happened with the Gestalt, we see what happened with Miffany about this whole situation of like the whole Glen Grove situation of like, you know, bringing these kids, kind of training them to be weapons, essentially kind of stealing their childhood away from them to a certain extent. Which that's interesting to kind of, you know, circle back to. I was actually surprised Miffany confronted Linda about the whole Bristol situation. Granted, she didn't bring up everything because she didn't have the whole cards, but she got enough to be like, oh yeah, are you talking about the whole Bristol thing about you, like setting up him and me? And she's like, oh, that's so absurd. He said that, blah, blah, blah. It's like not true. Like the fact of the matter is I wanted him to end things because he was married. But the fact of the matter is you were so happy. How was I supposed to take that from you? She was like, the fact is when your memories were gone, I thought it'd be a good thing. I thought this way, hey, you'd be happy, you know, kind of, you get a fresh start. But that's the moment you see Miffany looking at her too, like, you're so full of shit because you have ulterior motives in this situation as well. So, or was it Miffany still not being sure what to really make of the whole thing, Linda in particular? So there's that. But like I said, Monica ended up figuring out that Miffany's memory was gone because it's like, yeah, you're pretty good at like jumping on the situation, keeping quiet most times, hearing what people's got to say and then quickly coming up with some bullshit. When you actually think about it, she's really good at it. Like she was able to kind of cover her bases for a long time, knowing, because once again, something I talked about it before. Like I should have figured Linda was a part of this because she's literally the only one in this entire group that figured out her memory was gone. It's like, why would you jump to that conclusion? No one else has. Like in that split second it took Linda to figure out. It took her less than 30 seconds to figure out. It's like that should have been a note in itself. But like I said, so Monica only figured out now because she's been talking to Miffany, but also she pieced everything together, previous interactions and stuff, plus with the new knowledge of Nazim existing, the EVA with the ability to wipe memories, it all clicked for her. So, and it's also like, yep, all of her memories are gone. So that's a whole complicated thing. Conrad ends up talking to Lorik, and he ends up finding out, all the stuff about Miffany, about how she went to the Legat for help and now the Legat didn't come seeking her out. And so I don't know, it's a very interesting situation between Conrad and Lorik. And now it's like, okay, so it's like, okay, she needed to get out of town, but at the same time, Conrad brings up the biggest question. Why is she still here if she has an out? She's already paid for, all of it's there ready for her, but why hasn't she taken it yet? So that's a big question in itself. And Conrad doesn't know. Once again, Conrad doesn't know what the situation is. I'm sure next episode he's going to get filled in. Everyone's potentially going to get filled in a bit about all of this. But there's a lot of interesting things. Like obviously there's a meeting set up to meet with Bronwyn. And it's like, okay, she's there to get Nazim. She knows Marcus. And you have Monica being there like, oh, what's going on with all this? So you have... It seems some discrepancies that basically it seems like, Marcus told me all about you, and it's like, well, you're a liar. It's like, what was Brawny and did when Marcus went undercover doing whatever he's doing, was that for the purpose of, oh no, this is someone else he had met along the way and fell for her and kind of left Monica behind? Or was it a situation of, was it part of some deep cover he was a part of? I don't know. Or was he doing this on his own because he found out what... Because the way she was making it seem, it made it seem like the BVA, the organization that Monica and him worked for, are the ones grabbing kids and pushing them. Basically the whole Glen Grove type of situation. But, or was she thinking Monica is a part of the Chicay, or is it supposed to be the BVA and the Chicay? All organizations connected to EVAs are exactly the same, so maybe that's the whole point. That Marcus was trying to expose these organizations in particular, like what they do. Because like I said, we saw it with the Gestalt, we saw it with Miffany herself, like they put you in this position to kind of weaponize you. We saw what Linda did, but it seemed like Linda also did it for other reasons, hence why she was trying to take the Legat. Because the question is like, why are you giving them Miffany in exchange for Nazim? Like I said, it has to be for his ability, but what about his ability to wipe memories do you need? Now, what I was also wondering too is like, okay, we see, Linda do her thing and she's doing like stretches and stuff like that. She's moving around her stomach. I guess it's supposed to be represent her diaphragm or something. Like, I was like, what is that supposed to be doing? And then like her husband comes and you can't hear anything, and I'm like, did she take the sound away or something? I was like, what's that supposed to mean? I was like, oh, maybe they just artistically decided to make it so. But she starts signing, and I'm like, what the fuck is that supposed to mean? And then later on we see her show up. It's like, sound is her weapon, because in that scene she doesn't talk. I guess it's kind of like she's kind of got like a Jesus, what's his name? I'm literally heard his name recently from the Inhumans. He speaks and he can. I'm blanking on his name, but I guess sound waves are her weapon. Like basically, she absorbs sound around her, and then or maybe at the very least, she amplifies sound, so she doesn't say anything in that moment because if she's using her powers. And that was a question I had too. I was like, is Linda an EVA? Because she never showcased her powers, so it seems like most everyone a part of the group is one. I mean, granted, we haven't seen everyone's abilities, so maybe not everyone is, but a good chunk of them are. So I'm like, I just find that so fascinating, because I'm like, because I was asking that for a long time. I mean, because even obviously Conrad's one, so it wouldn't make sense that Linda would be one, but still, it's interesting, and it seems like she's got a massively wicked ability to be able to do what she does, like. She was sending out a sonic, like a screeching, piercing sound. Like I said, it's like, it didn't seem like it knocked people back, but it was enough to kind of like cripple people, just their ears, until she put like a special set of headphones, noise-canceling headphones on, Nazim. Like I said, I get the feeling like maybe if she opens her mouth, maybe she absorbs all of her sound, like whether it be her stepping, like every motion of her body sends out like this shrieking shockwave of sound. Maybe, I don't know. It'd be interesting to kind of dive into that more. But it turns out that Bronwyn is apparently Miffy's sister, which we didn't even know she had one. I mean, to be fair, Miffy doesn't remember. But it's like, wasn't Bronwyn like the one behind the Miffy situation? Did she actually go to the Legat trying to trade Nazim? Well, so that's what this is all about. She wants to help Nazim because she's trying to trade Nazim for her sister. Is that what this is all about? Because she's been because her sister's been a part of this for such a long time. Once again, Miffy doesn't remember everything from her life. Linda tried to be like, oh, there's some things that's better off forgotten. So it might be a situation that maybe even her parents aren't their actual parents, that she was adopted as part of this system or whatever, as a part of this whole good. Maybe meeting Bristol wasn't the first instance of her being in the, Shakay's like eyes and whatnot. Maybe they had eyes on her sooner, just waiting for her abilities to manifest. I don't know. What's also the basic question: what are her sister's abilities? Are they similar? Are they different? Is her sister even a EVA? I'd assume so, but maybe not. I don't know. But two of the Gestalt get away with Miffy while the others are kind of stuck there. It's like, Linda's doing her thing and no one's going to ask any questions about that. I think she's just going to stroll away. So it's like, okay. I get the feeling, like I said, next episode is going to be like okay, spill the beans. What the hell is going on? Miffy's most likely going to have to drop the information. My memory's going. It got wiped by Nazim. Linda's literally a part of this, and it's going to be figuring out what the hell Linda's up to. Not unless she takes this next episode and spins it and be like, oh, I came here, because this way is going to put her in a position of like, if she captured Nazim, it's like, oh, look at all these bad people associated with all of this, that you were suspicious of them, I captured them, like, oh, I'm going to definitely reinstate myself, well, get reinstated because I did the job that no one else could. Maybe that's what she does, or maybe she'll full-blown goes, nah, Nazim, you're coming with me, and disappears to do whatever she's got up her sleeve. I have no idea. It's going, like I said, it's going to be interesting to see where all of this ultimately leads. Also, like I said, this whole Miffy situation of her sister, like, what's that all about? We'll ultimately have to wait and see and find out. And now moving on to the season finale of NOS4A2, a great season finale, obviously back-to-back episodes. So I'll probably try and talk about one episode and then move into the other, but I might end up being all over the place. But like I said, a great season finale. There's a lot of stuff that went down in this, so let's pick things up. For one, we learned a little interesting thing about, because the whole thing was like, okay, it seemed like Vic was the only one who could cross her bridge, but it turns out Maggie could too. At first, the moment she said that, I was like, oh, must be because Maggie's a strong creator. But it's like, then she finishes it by being like, because I was on your bike. It's like, right, because when Craig tried to use the bridge, he was on his own bike. But I guess it's like, once you're with her, like, I mean, to be fair, it's like Jolene, she could bring other people into her inscape, the dark tunnel. So it's not that. Well, I made that assumption that is her Inkscape. I assume it is, but maybe it wasn't. Maybe it's just I mean, I'd assume if she can get there, like it has to be her Inkscape. That was always just my assumption, but I always felt like maybe I'm wrong. But nevertheless, I'm getting, regardless. But that's all you have. I guess when you're with her, Vic, she being on her knife gives you access. It's basically her knife is the key to cross the bridge, and when you're holding onto the key at the same time Vic is, lo and behold, you can cross the bridge. What I was actually surprised about too was the beginning of the episode, Craig going full revenge because he's going after Bing. Kind of kicked his ass a little bit, but Bing put up a fight. And the way the camera kind of messes with you too. I love that they kind of make you go, oh, who made it out? Because you see the bat get pit up and bam, you see some blood splatter. I was like, Bing got Craig, didn't he? I assumed that he had killed him, but then I feel like you would have heard multiple whacks if that was the case. Maybe you heard twice, but like you would have heard it over boom, 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 but we didn't. So, but I had a feeling it probably ended like that, sadly. Craig just, he wanted to get revenge for what he did to, Vic. That's the woman he loves, and he'd do anything for her. And it was kind of interesting, the whole Bing situation, when he's trying to explain to Charlie, it's like, oh, the fact of the matter is she doesn't deserve to be in Christmas list. And it's like, wait, what did you do? It's like, but she deserves to be on the naughty list. And he's like, no, you deserve to be on the naughty list. And you know what happens to people who stay on the naughty list? Because you've been on the naughty list and you're going to continue to be up there and you're going to be punished. But then it gets revealed, like, wait, Craig, her boyfriend, wait, what? Wait, does that mean that you consummate your relationship? And that's the crazy twisted thing behind it, is the fact is that he wanted, because he called her pure last time. It's like, because I guess he had sensed that she was a virgin or whatever. I guess being with Craig was her first time. I mean, I don't know. But I would assume so, especially because he got so pissed off. It's like, oh, my beautiful angel queen. Like the fact is he got pissed because later on it's like, you defiled her, because I think it's also the thing of like, Craig isn't anyone special. It's like, you're just some unspecial person. He's like, but look at me, I'm special, I have Christmas land. Like, a bit narcissistic of himself, but it's like, me and her, we could do so much together. But so that was just kind of interesting to me, even later on, being like, oh, I wanted you to be the mother to my children, but you're unpure. The fact of the matter is you're tainted, so you're better off as food to them. And I just thought that was kind of a fascinating thing, that's what shifted his mind. So you have Vic, figuring out, yeah, something happened to Craig. They even used the Maggie's tiles. It's like, okay, he's in the Wraith. Can she find the Wraith? Yes. Is the brat ready? No. But that doesn't stop Vic, because no matter what, she's got to save Craig. So she gets on her bike and goes. Maggie stays behind with Hutter, kind of being like, yo, because obviously we're kind of repeating the same issue before, because Hutter's like, you're not telling me everything. I believe you about Bing and him having Craig and Vic, but the fact of the matter is you're not telling me everything. But they end up finding the nail gun, and it's like, okay, so it's definitely leaning more into like, oh, we have proof to kind of act upon when it comes down to taking down Bing. Vic goes to the sleigh house and dealing with Bradley, as well as the whole, Craig being locked in the Wraith. I didn't see that coming, to twist where it's like he grabbed, you have Charlie grabbing her bike and throwing it across her bridge, and it did some massive damage to her, because I guess it kind of it messes with her Inkscape to a certain extent, because it's like the bike is your knife is your connection to it, and it's like the moment the bike was thrown in, her connection to her Inkscape was destroyed, I guess, in that moment, and it just shattered her. Like, we see her eye take more damage than it's ever taken before. Like, she started bleeding heavily from her eye. So I was like, damn, I didn't see that coming. And Charlie trying to come after her, literally burning the house down just to get to her. And that tense moment of Vic trying to climb out the vent, and I was like, all right, you got this, Vic, and she falls. It's like, oh, jeez. But hearing everything in her head, I think it's probably a combination of just remembering everything that was said, but maybe her powers as a strong creative kind of kicking in. Because usually that's what happens when she triggers her, her bridge, is like that stuff starts flooding her head, and the bridge builds a pathway there. But regardless, she was able to kind of get out the second time, though. Granted, her leg is mad busted up. Maggie showing Hutter her tile back thing, which is kind of interesting for Hutter to be like, whoa, this is nuts. I just see it firsthand. Also, the situation of being like, yeah, this world, there's a lot more in it that is beyond your imagination, you know. It's kind of interesting to have Hutter kind of be in the know about that. She's not the only one. We'll kind of get to that soon enough, but still, that's crazy. Then you had Vic, you know, kind of borderlining into like the second episode. You had Vic running into Lou. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're making this dude into a character. It seems like for a particular purpose. I'm like, yo, Lou with the save coming by with the bike. The moment he showed up with a bike, I'm like, oh my God, she's going to hop on a bike. She's going to trigger her power and she's able to use it as a bridge. No. Because I guess, like, you know, as we know, they can all have, she never found a second knife. Like, I think it is a thing of, like, she has to find, like, resonance, like, because obviously I think it is a thing of, like, it has to have significance. Like, it started crossing my mind. I thought this was going to come up at the end of the episode, but I'll go ahead and talk about it. I assumed her next knife would be Craig's bike just because it holds significance. That bike holds significance for her. It's like the first bike her dad ever got her. There came with some complicated feelings, but I'm sure with everything that went down in this episode, like I'm saying, I'm skipping around, but the fact is I would assume Craig's bike would be that. That's why I'm surprised she's not writing it at the end. That doesn't mean she never got it, but maybe she just never feels like, because probably writing it would be too much of a reminder of Craig, but I think that might be her next knife. Because it seems like later on she never opens the shorter way again. So, regardless, Lou, you know, drives her to the gas station or whatever, and it's like, yo, you gotta listen to this girl. Like, what's your name, Vic? And he's like explaining the situation. She barely got out of her life. I'm like, Lou just seems like just the way Lou's explaining this, almost sounding like a madman. And then lo and behold, you know, the Tiles tell Maggie that he's at the gas station. No, that I forgot what the name of the town is, and it's like, it came up, and it's like, whoa, that's where we are, and lo and behold, he pulls up the station because Craig had hit his gas tank, and busted it, and obviously it's immediately taking its effect on Charlie. It's not heavy damage, but it's enough damage for him to start coughing up blood and wiping blood from his nose. And then we have the confrontation. I love it being like, Lou, you good with a gun? You too? Ma'am, you get in the back with your baby? You, sir, take that gun. Because that was a gas station that we've seen, you know, Charlie go to, like, earlier in the season. So, but I guess, like, the sleigh house is on the way. Maybe it's kind of a rest stop towards Christmas Town, because there's also those trees and those decorations. That must be the pathway into his inscape, that tree, but because the Wraith's not there to do it. Well, to be fair, he didn't go that way. Well, he did kind of go that, or I think Vic ended up going, I'm trying to remember which way they went, because I don't know if the Wraith went down that path, but it seems like that's like the pathway to Christmas Town, but you'd have to kind of go along that path with the Wraith. Like, it's almost like a maze, and the Wraith knows the exact pathing to go there, but no one else. It's almost probably like a mirage of some sort, where it kind of, you'll get, it's like I said, a maze. You'll kind of get lost along the way. It's the purpose so that you get lost, so you can't find your way to Christmas Land. I assume it kind of works to a certain extent like that. But then you have, like, Lou with the gun to Charlie's head, and he's like, yo, like, he knows all this stuff about Lou. It's like, oh, all this juvenile stuff you did to get someone's attention, but oh, you've never known a woman's touch. The fact of the matter is, like, you've done all this to get someone's love and attention. You've never gotten it from a woman, or even your mother, let alone kind of getting inside of Lou's head and everything. You have Vic trying to rescue Craig, and, you know, it sucks that situation played out the way it did. It is kind of interesting how they utilize that aspect. It's something that we found out earlier on about, like, the front part of the Wraith and the back of the Wraith are, like, technically two different dimensions coexisting at once. So the moment Vic tries to pull Craig through, he won't come through because their back is kind of a dimension on its own. It makes you wonder where that would have taken. Like, what, like, if you did try to cross that, where, I mean, it doesn't seem like it's a thing of, like, it can take you anywhere. It just kind of, like, it seems like you gotta get pulled into, like, a nothing void, and it's like nothing comes on the other side, because the only thing on the other side was Vic's hand as she was trying to pull Craig through. So, but part of me was wondering, like, if you went all the way through, like, would anything happen, or would it just be kind of like there's almost like a boundary, an elastic boundary, where it's like you stick your hand through, but, like, the consistency of, like, rubber keeps you from going all the way through, and you just bounce back out. That's what it kind of seems like. But Vic lighting the Wraith on fire, you know, Craig even telling her, it's like, just go, you know, he cares about her, and, you know, he doesn't want her to get hurt. Plus, they're dealing with the whole Bradley situation, in which that whole situation is kind of sad and just morbid in its own in many different ways. For one, Craig dies, but also, like, that kid dies too, which begs the question, remember, he made such a point that it's like, oh, we got to save 10 kids. Why 10 kids specifically? Is it just like a specific number? Is it part of something? Does Christmas Land need like 10 kids every so often or something to kind of keep itself running? Is that how his Enscape works? Is that how he operates? You know, if he doesn't get those 10 kids, what happens? That means without Bradley, he's one kid short. So what does that mean? But it also comes down to that thing of what was said. Once they belong to him, it seems like there's no going back. Like, once they've already started making that transformation, like, you can't save them anymore, potentially. So, could there have been a way to save Bradley? Who knows? But the rave burns, and you see Lou looking at Charlie kind of, like, getting older and burning, and you have Lou being like, what the hell? And I love Lou. We kind of get bits of Lou's personality when he's looking after, Vic, and he's like, the fact of the matter is kind of calling, he's like, the fact of the matter is, I know there's some crazy stuff out there in the world, because, I'm kind of a comic book dude, and I know that, there's a lot of stuff around this world that we can't explain, and he compares Vic to, like, this hero from a comic book, and he's like, without all the armor and better hair, and it's like, and Lou, I'm like, Lou's running his mouth off, I'm like, yo, we're really getting to know Lou, aren't we? Is this set up for the future? And it seems like it might be, with Lou kind of looking after her. And he's like, hey, here's my number if you ever need, a ward, a sidekick with all this. And I'm like, it's nice that when it's all said and done, Vic has someone, out. Because not everyone knows, like, there's only a handful of people now who know the truth about everything. Craig knew. Sadly, he's gone now. But, Maggie knows, because obviously she's neck deep in this. Hutter knows now. And now Lou. So I thought that was kind of interesting. Plus, Vic finds out she's pregnant. Now, that was like a, whoa. So, now that's really interesting. I didn't expect that either. And for her, it's that thing of, like, now she's carrying Craig's baby. It's the last piece of him. And that turns into a whole conversation in itself. Because she ends up asking at her mom at Craig's funeral, like at his service, like her mom is like, because she asked her mom, it's like, if you didn't have dad, what would you have done? It's like, well, I would have moved in with my mom, and then I would have been arrested for murder. But obviously, me and my mom didn't have the same relationship you and I have, and then you kind of can't help but go, kind of makes you go, huh. That's funny, because obviously we know that Vic and her mom have a very complicated relationship. I'm surprised the person she does end up telling is her dad, but I guess that showcases, like, even with the complicated relationship they currently have, like, the fact of the matter is she's still willing to trust her dad more than she is her mom. Because her dad's like, well, you don't have to keep it, there's kind of suggesting there's another option, but she's like, no, it's Craig's baby, and she's not going to get rid of the one piece of Craig that's left, she can't do that. But the fact that she didn't tell her mom, I think, speaks volumes. Because I think her mom probably would make her give up the baby. Just because her mom wouldn't want her to have the same life, because Vic would be worse off. Because it's like, hey, you don't even have the baby's dad in the picture anymore. Like, especially because her mom always put so much pressure on her to be like, try not to be like her, but also being like, that's kind of all you kind of be stuck at. I don't know. I like when it's all said and done, it's not like her family situation is all peachy and is great. It's like, no, she still comes from a very fucked up and dysfunctional family, and it's still a work in progress. And where they stand in all of this, I don't know. Will her dad end up bringing this up to his ex, or like what's going to go on with that situation? But Vic ends up talking to Craig's mom, and I really like that heart-to-heart they had, because for her it's like, you're the only person that knew my boy was good. He had a golden heart, because everyone else in there, because like, let's not forget, even like Vic's mom, what did she assume? It's like, oh, you're probably off doing drugs with Vic and stuff like that. She thought the worst of Craig. It's like, oh, stay away from my daughter, you're kind of a bad influence. But it's like, because Vic's the only one because Vic had even said it, the reason why she had to go, because for her it's like, I brought Craig into this because I came to him after my bridge situation. I came to him after Bing had captured me. I've always come running to him ever since I was 6 years old, And it's just, not only did she lose her boyfriend, the person she was in love with, she lost her best friend. Like, they've been best friends since they were kids. Like, to lose someone like that, especially because she blames herself because she got him mixed up in all of this. And that's the sad thing. It's like, those who are not part of this world of being strong creatives or whatnot, it's like, if you're not in that world, it seems like everyone else dies. That's a whole conversation, like, with Maggie that had, like, she's like, oh, Joe died, Danny, Haley, and now, you know, Craig, like all these people get mixed up in this and they end up dying because of it. I mean, Maggie had already blamed herself, like in the first episode, about like how because I was in the condition I was in, you know, Joe took me back to his place to look after me, and then what do I do after finding out he died? I spiraled out and almost killed myself, you know? It's a lot to deal with. Even later on, you know, well, getting back to what I was saying, to kind of finish up my thought earlier, was just the whole thing of like, Craig's mom didn't appreciate it because it's like all these people here, you know, they're not even worth, they were never worth the dirt under my boy's nails. It's like, Vic, don't stay in this town. This town is horrible. Get out, you know, while you can, while you're still young. Go to that artist school. Craig always said you were good. And, you know, but kind of getting back to what I was trying to finish up was like the whole thing of like Maggie, Vic understands her situation now because like when she saw Maggie behind that dumpster, it's like, what could bring her to kind of, you know, be willing to take her own life. But now she's in that situation. How she felt when she lost Joe is how Vic feels now that she lost Craig. And it's a lot. She goes to the spot where her bridge would be, but it's still not popping up. I was wondering like, oh, is it going to pop up last minute? Is she going to summon it? But it's like I said, I truly believe Craig's bike is going to be her next knife. But then again, maybe her knife being stuck inside causes issues in itself. I don't know. Maybe the moment she makes Craig's bike her new knife, her original knife breaks down, gets destroyed, or maybe it just loses the essence of what makes it a knife. Or is it, like I said before, like I thought, maybe it's like if she kind of focuses, like she herself is what makes any bike into her knife. So, once again, like we know you can have at least two knives, but is it a situation where they can operate at the same time, or does one need to be destroyed? Well, to be fair, she had her skates and her, like, I think I brought this point up exactly before. Jolene had her skates and her wheelchair, even though she didn't have her skates anymore, because her knife adapts to her situation, her condition, so that allowed for, you know, the wheelchair. But Vic also had seen Charlie telling him, it's like, the fact of the matter is, I'm still going to find my way to Christmas Land, and I'm going to burn it to the ground like I promised you. You know, so there's that. But I figured, like, okay, things definitely aren't done, because, hey, Bing, he's still out there, shaved off his beard. He has a House of Sleep 2, which is interesting. When it popped up, oh, House of Sleep 2, I assumed they were talking about his original house. I could be wrong, but I don't think that was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't. But I thought when they were referring to, I was like, oh, is he going back to his parents' house? But it's like, no. I guess he has another stashaway place, and I guess that's where he's going to kind of be continuing like his more diabolical stuff. Because now it seems like he's working at a dentist's office like 6 months later. So the question then becomes like, is he stepping in to be the new Charlie, but he doesn't know how to find his way to Christmas Land? So is he just going to be kidnapping kids and hurt, like, or is he just going full psychopath in the sense that he's just in there to hurt bad mothers or bad parents or whatever, bad adults or whatever, and it's like, oh, I'm protecting these children like he's been misguided to believe? Because I was actually surprised, like, Bing is still around. I would have expected he would have kind of gotten dealt with this season, but no, he's still alive. And I'm sure that pisses, you know, Vic off more so than anything. It's like, Craig is gone, but Charlie, yeah, he's in his condition, but he's still alive, and so is Bing, and he's out there. So there's also the whole element that's still wide open. What about Millie? They also brought up an interesting thing about the fact is that the, like, Wraith, there's only like 2 of them in existence. The moment that was said, I was like, okay, so this one's kind of beyond repair. So what's going to probably happen is the other Wraith gets adopted by either like Millie or somehow, you know, what's his face? Charlie ends up getting it, or maybe he uses the parts from another Wraith to fix his. Part of me also wonders, like, Millie might not be able to leave Christmas Land. Like, once you're a part of Christmas Land, there's probably actually no leaving. Like, Charlie might be the only one who can come and go like he wants. We did see Millie pop up in like a vision of Vix. The question is, was that a vision, or did Millie actually come to her inside of her head? And, you know, that very important distinction, you know, so I'm curious. An element I'm very curious about is going to be the whole Maggie and Hutter situation, because Hutter was like, yeah, honestly, I'm not the most religious person. I never believed in kind of like this other side of things, but she talks about her family situation of like she was born 3 months earlier than she was supposed to be, premature, and had a collapsed lung. Doctors told her mom she wasn't going to make it. Her mom took her to her grandfather and ended up performing something, and it's like, oh, you ended up potentially being alive. At first she thought it was just a story, but now seeing what Maggie can do, it makes her go, okay, so maybe there's something more to this. I also thought it was kind of interesting too how she's like, how does that all work? It's like, you don't want to know. And she also says something interesting where it's like, you don't want to touch the tiles, they're dangerous even for me, which we can see that obviously using the tiles repeatedly, like depending on I think what she's reaching for, what she's trying to find out, takes a bigger toll on her every time. Maybe it's a cumulative, like the fact is like the price and what it takes out on her comes up more and more every time she uses it, or maybe if she doesn't take long enough breaks in between, it gets her super exhausted. Basically like Vic. I mean, to be fair, Vic also has that dual side of like, yeah, Charlie even made a point of like, yeah, you don't want to let all those bats out. It's like, what the hell does that necessarily mean? Once again, I chalked that up to be like her mental state, that her mind would go insane because those bats represented her sanity. That was my thought process. Whether that's the case or not, who knows? But again, back to what I was saying, it's interesting because no one else has touched her tiles except for her. I am curious what would happen if someone else did touch her tiles, like what the ramifications would be. But also, like, I liked how she did explain it. It's like, basically her bag works by her tearing open the fabric of space between reality and thought. And Hutter doesn't say anything. And then Maggie's like, I told you didn't want to know how this whole thing operated. So, but I'm curious to see what that dynamic looks like, because she's not going back to Iowa because that'd just be a reminder of Joe. And it's like, Bing is still out there, so I got to help capture him. But for Vic, she can't stay around. I'm curious what that conversation is like with her mom and dad, because it seems like she's not going off to college. She's dealing with this whole baby thing. She turns to the one person she can to outside of all this, and that's Lou. So it seems like she's kind of working in like his garage or something for a while. It's like, well, until business picks up, I can't really pay you yet. And we see the bump in her stomach got quite big, and it's like, she's like, I'm not gonna let this child near anyone like Charlie Minx, you know. So I like Lou being like, yeah, it's kind of cold out here and it's super creepy, so let's leave. But obviously, I figured as much with that dude being like, oh, like, he's like, oh, taking an interest in the Wraith, and it was like, you see him later on, I'm like, you're about to fix it up, aren't you? And he kind of does a little something, and we see it activates Charlie. He's not fully recovered, but the more that dude works on the Wraith, the more Charlie's going to get better, so he's not out of the picture. So it's kind of interesting, even when this is all said and done, all of our antagonists still kind of big part into this. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see potentially where this all could take us going forward. The show has been renewed for a second season, which I'm very excited to hear that. Like, I'm very curious to see where the second season is going to take us. Obviously, like, Lou is going to be Vic's sidekick in all of this, like what that dynamic is going to be like what's, like I said, will we even see her parents featured at all next season? Well, I think we might start steeping into the realm of venturing out and seeing other strong creatives. Once again, coming down to the whole situation of how Vic gets her escape back, the whole knife situation. Like I said, I've put my thoughts out there. I'd like to know, you know, where you stand on all of that too. There's also that guy that Charlie met last episode. Like, what's up with that dude? Like, is that, you know, that bar, that's literally the title of the last episode, but like that dude, like, what is that all about? That seems like that was an introduction that we don't know where that, I mean, I'm sure that has something to do with other strong creatives. Are there going to be others out there like Charlie who are bad? Are there others who are just kind of like, oh, I'm fine doing my thing, let Charlie do his thing? Like, that's why I'm curious about that dude. It seemed like he was okay with Charlie doing whatever he wants to, because it's like, oh, you're a pal, old time, we go way back, so you do the creepy shit you do, I don't care. You do your thing, I do mine. Like I said, are there other people who are creepy like Charlie or not? Those are questions I'd be very interested to see, you know, where season 2 would take us with all of that. Because I'm also curious, like, when they pick up with season 2, will it be an immediate pickup after the 6-month skip of like, oh, here's Vic still pregnant, or will she already have had the baby? Questions like that. I'm very curious. I'm also curious, will she ever tell Craig's mom? Because she didn't tell her at that time. But I guess it's like she already lost her son. She didn't want to put more stress on her and everything. So, like I said, we'll ultimately have to wait and see. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.